Have you ever wondered what really happened behind the glamorous curtains of old Hollywood? Those golden years gave us timeless movies, unforgettable icons, and groundbreaking stories. But hidden beneath the sparkly surface were scandals, secrets, feuds, and tragedies that could rival any modern tabloid headline. In this video, we're counting down 20 of the most bizarre and fascinating stories from Hollywood's golden era. The Fatty Arbuckle scandal. What happens when one of the biggest comedic stars in America faces a scandal so massive that it shakes the entire movie industry? Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle was a silent film legend, beloved by audiences for his slapstick humor and childlike charm. During the late 1910s and early 1920s, he was making a fortune, and his popularity seemed unstoppable. But in 1921, everything changed. Arbuckle hosted a party at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco over Labor Day weekend. An aspiring actress named Virginia Rapp fell ill under mysterious circumstances and died a few days later. Rumors started swirling that Arbuckle was responsible for her death. The press sensationalized the case, painting Arbuckle as a heartless villain. They claimed his weight and wild lifestyle had contributed to a horrifying assault. The public turned against him almost overnight. 3 trials took place, with the first 2 ending in mistrials. Finally, Arbuckle was found not guilty, and the jury even apologized to him, stating that he had been the victim of great injustice. Yet, public opinion was far less forgiving. Arbuckle's films were banned in some places, and studios distanced themselves from the once beloved comedian. Although he tried to rebuild his career, he never regained his previous status. To make matters worse, the scandal pushed Hollywood executives to crack down on perceived immoral behavior. Ultimately, it helped pave the way for stricter rules and censorship, including the famous production code. Arbuckle's story is both tragic and strange. A massive star reduced to near oblivion by a trial that found him innocent, yet couldn't save him from the court of public opinion. It remains a cautionary tale about how quickly fame can vanish when dark rumors arise. The Misfits' curse. Could one film really carry a curse so strong that it claimed the lives of 3 Hollywood legends? In 1961, The Misfits was meant to be a masterpiece. Directed by John Huston and written by Arthur Miller for his then-wife Marilyn Monroe, this modern Western had a dream cast: Monroe, Clark Gable, and Montgomery Clift. But the production was plagued by problems from the start. The Nevada desert heat was brutal, and Monroe's personal struggles caused frequent delays. Still, no one anticipated the eerie fates that would soon follow. Clark Gable, forever remembered as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, performed his own stunts in The Misfits, including wrestling with wild mustangs under the scorching sun. Soon after filming ended, he suffered a massive heart attack and died in November 1960. He was only 59, and many blamed the strenuous shoot for worsening his health. Marilyn Monroe delivered a powerful performance, but was struggling with depression, addiction, and the breakdown of her marriage to Miller. Less than 2 years after the film's release, she died from an overdose at age 36. Conspiracy theories about her passing and connections to powerful figures still swirl today. Montgomery Clift was battling serious personal demons of his own, stemming from a car accident years prior that left him in chronic pain. His health steadily deteriorated due to his reliance on alcohol and painkillers. By 1966, he too had died from a heart attack at just 45. Fans and Hollywood insiders couldn't help but notice that 3 of the film's stars died tragically in quick succession. The idea of The Misfits being cursed took hold, adding another layer of intrigue to a movie that was originally supposed to be a career-defining triumph. The eerie death of George Reeves. What do you do when the very man who played the invincible Superman dies under bizarre and controversial circumstances? George Reeves soared to fame in the 1950s as TV's Superman, capturing the hearts of fans who believed he could leap tall buildings in a single bound. But off-screen, Reeves struggled. He was typecast to the point where casting directors wouldn't see him as anything but the Man of Steel. Frustration and financial troubles weighed heavily on him. In June 1959, Reeves was found dead in his bedroom from a single gunshot wound to the head. However, suspicion surrounded this conclusion. Reeves's fiancée, Leonore Lemon, and a few friends were allegedly in the house at the time. Accounts of what happened that night vary, with some witnesses claiming they heard an argument just before the shot. One theory points the finger at Eddie Mannix, an MGM executive who may have held a grudge. Reeves had previously been involved with Mannix's wife, Toni. Another line of speculation accuses Leonore Lemon of accidentally shooting Reeves in a drunken argument. While official investigations close the case, rumors of foul play persist to this day. Oddly enough, the death of Superman caused national uproar. Fans found it hard to believe that the man who portrayed a near-immortal superhero could take his own life, or be so easily killed. The shock was immense, and children especially were left puzzled and heartbroken. Whether it was homicide or just a tragic accident, the death of George Reeves remains one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. His story is a sobering reminder that even those who appear strong and heroic on screen can hide deep turmoil in real life. The mysterious end of Thelma Todd. How does a rising comedic star go to bed after a party and end up dead in a garage with her car engine running? Thelma Todd was a bright comedy actress in the late 1920s and early 1930s, known for her work with stars like the Marx Brothers. She was nicknamed the Ice Cream Blonde, exuding a vivacious charm that made her a popular figure in short films and comedies. Off-screen, Todd was ambitious and opened a successful cafe on the Pacific Coast Highway. On December 16, 1935, she attended a party thrown by Stan Laurel. Later that night, she returned home, or so everyone thought. The next morning, Todd's body was found in her car, inside a garage belonging to her ex-lover and business partner, Roland West. She had died from carbon monoxide poisoning. The official cause was accidental death, suggesting she may have warmed herself by running the car's engine in the chilly night. But rumors spread like wildfire. Todd was apparently stressed about her personal life and finances. Others suspected murder, pointing to potential love triangles or disputes over her cafe business. Roland West himself gave conflicting statements about the night Todd died, fueling further suspicion. Even the local mob got dragged into the rumor mill, with suggestions that Todd had refused to let certain underworld figures use her cafe for illegal gambling. Though her death was ultimately ruled an accident, the odd circumstances kept conspiracies alive. Was she locked in the garage as punishment, only to die by mistake? Did she deliberately end her life? Or was it truly a simple, tragic accident? No definitive proof has ever put these questions to rest, leaving Thelma Todd's demise as one of Hollywood's great unsolved mysteries. The hidden struggles of Judy Garland. Could a voice as magical as Judy Garland's mask a world of pain behind the camera? Beloved by millions for her role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland was the symbol of youthful hope and bright-eyed wonder. But behind her radiant performances, she faced a life controlled by the studio system and plagued by addiction. Garland was signed to MGM at just 13, and from that moment on, the studio sought to shape her into a marketable star. She was placed on strict diets, given appetite suppressants to keep her weight down, and fed amphetamines to keep her energy up for long shooting schedules. This led to a cycle of uppers to stay awake and downers to sleep, an addiction that would follow her for life. Though she brought magic to musicals like Meet Me in St. Louis and Easter Parade, MGM executives criticized her appearance, calling her the Little Hunchback. Their cruel remarks tore at her self-esteem. Over time, the constant pressure eroded her mental health. She suffered nervous breakdowns and was eventually fired by the studio in 1950. Desperate to reclaim her career, Garland found success as a concert performer and delivered a remarkable comeback in A Star is Born, earning an Oscar nomination. Yet, her personal demons kept haunting her. In June 1969, Garland was found dead in her London bathroom from an accidental barbiturate overdose. She was just 47. Fans worldwide mourned the tragic end of an icon whose voice had brought so much joy. Garland's life story remains a powerful warning about the darker side of fame. It reminds us that even the brightest stars sometimes burn at both ends, leaving behind a legacy of unforgettable talent and heartbreaking loss. Bette Davis versus Joan Crawford, the ultimate feud. Ever wonder what happens when two powerful actresses turn a professional rivalry into decades of real-life warfare? Bette Davis and Joan Crawford are two of the most iconic names of Hollywood's golden age. They also shared one of the most famous and toxic rivalries in Tinseltown history. The animosity reportedly began in the 1930s, when Crawford married actor Franchot Tone, a man Davis was said to be head over heels in love with. From that point on, the two actresses were locked in a cold war of cutting remarks, sly digs, and outright sabotage. Crawford was the glamorous star who reinvented herself from Lucille Lesueur into an elegant leading lady. Davis prided herself on being a serious actress who didn't rely on good looks alone. Each believed the other was unworthy of Hollywood's highest honors. Their feud came to a dramatic head during the filming of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane in 1962, where they played aging sisters locked in a twisted relationship. Filming was chaotic, as both tried to outdo and undercut each other. Davis allegedly kicked Crawford so hard that she needed stitches, while Crawford, knowing Davis had back problems, arranged to wear weights during a scene where Davis had to drag her. The tension escalated into award season. Davis received an Oscar nomination. Crawford did not. In a now legendary move, Crawford volunteered to accept the award on behalf of any nominee who couldn't attend. When Anne Bancroft won, Crawford marched on stage, stealing the spotlight and leaving Davis fuming backstage. Even after Crawford's death in 1977, Davis famously quipped, "You should never say bad things about the dead, only good." Joan Crawford is dead. Good. Their feud stands out as one of the most jaw-dropping in movie history. The casting couch nightmare. Ever suspect that behind every glamorous audition door, a dark secret might be waiting? One of old Hollywood's most disturbing open secrets was the so-called casting couch, a term describing predatory behavior by powerful men in the film industry. Producers, directors, and studio chiefs often demanded sexual favors from aspiring actors in exchange for roles, advancement, or even just a chance at an audition. Louis B. Mayer, Harry Cohn, and Darryl F. Zanuck were among the infamous moguls rumored to have exploited their positions. When starlets arrived in Hollywood, filled with dreams, they were vulnerable to manipulation. Declining in advance could ruin a career before it even began. Accepting might guarantee a role, but came with a terrible emotional price. Marilyn Monroe herself hinted at these dark realities. She famously said she had been propositioned by plenty of men during her climb to fame. Judy Garland, too, endured repeated harassment during her teenage years. Yet, due to the immense power studios held, these stories rarely made the news at the time. The casting couch phenomenon showed the darker side of the studio system's control. Actresses had to weigh moral choices against survival in the industry. Those who spoke out risked being labeled difficult or uncooperative. Many ended up psychologically scarred, their personal stories hidden for decades. While Hollywood has slowly changed over the years, the exploitation that took place then remains a dark chapter in film history. Today, stories from that era serve as cautionary tales, illustrating how unchecked power can lead to systemic abuse. They also remind us that fame and fortune often come at a steep cost. Peg Entwistle's leap from the Hollywood sign. How haunted would Hollywood be if one of its brightest young talents took her final breath beneath its most famous landmark? In 1932, the Great Depression weighed heavily on everyone, including hopeful actors flocking to Los Angeles in search of stardom. Peg Entwistle was one of them. Born in Britain, she had enjoyed modest success in theater, even appearing on Broadway. Like so many, she believed Hollywood would be her big break. But film roles were scarce, and the limited parts she did land, such as a minor role in 13 Women, didn't lead to the success she dreamed of. Feeling despondent and running out of money, Peg climbed to the top of the H on the Hollywoodland sign and jumped to her death. She was only 24 years old. A heartbreaking note left behind read, "I am afraid I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain." The tragedy shocked the local community, and it turned Peg Entwistle into a grim symbol of Hollywood dreams gone wrong. Strangely enough, legend claims that shortly after her death, a letter arrived offering her a part that involved playing a hysterical woman. Some say it could have been her breakthrough. Whether that's myth or fact, the tale of Peg Entwistle endures. Reports of a ghostly figure near the sign, dressed in 1930s clothing, occasionally pop up. Others report the scent of gardenias floating in the air. Her story serves as a stark reminder of the harsh realities that lurked behind Tinseltown's glittering facade. Sometimes, the dream machine could be cruel, leaving young talents broken and forgotten, with only their tragic tales left to echo through Hollywood lore. The tragic downfall of Marilyn Monroe. Why would the world's most famous blonde bombshell die alone with a bottle of pills by her side? Marilyn Monroe is the quintessential Hollywood icon, rising from a troubled childhood to becoming one of the biggest stars in the world. She embodied glamour and sensuality. Her films remain classics. Yet behind her luminous smile, Monroe was plagued by insecurities, battles with the studio system, and mental health struggles. Born Norma Jean Mortensen, she spent time in foster homes and orphanages. Her early life was marked by instability, something that followed her into adulthood. Studios quickly capitalized on her beauty and charisma, typecasting her as the dumb blonde, even though she aspired to be taken seriously as an actress. Monroe's personal life was tumultuous. She endured 3 divorces, including high-profile splits from baseball legend Joe DiMaggio and playwright Arthur Miller. She also struggled with depression and dependence on sleeping pills and painkillers. On-screen success didn't guarantee emotional stability, and soon, gossip swirled about her relationships with powerful figures like John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy. On August 5, 1962, Monroe was found dead in her Brentwood home, an apparent overdose. Her death was officially ruled a mysterious, but conspiracy theories abound. Some believe she was silenced over connections to the Kennedys. Others suspect accidental overdose. The mystery deepened with allegations of missing police files, contradictory statements from friends, and a swirl of rumors that Monroe possessed dangerous secrets. Whatever the truth, Marilyn Monroe's untimely death at 36 solidified her status as a tragic legend. She remains frozen in time, a breathtaking symbol of Hollywood's golden glitz, forever haunted by the darker shadows lurking behind the scenes. Howard Hughes, genius or madman? Would you lock yourself away in a hotel for months, grow your nails insanely long, and still manage to run a business empire? Howard Hughes was a movie producer, aviation pioneer, billionaire, and one of the most peculiar characters Hollywood has ever seen. In the 1930s and 1940s, he produced big-budget films like Hell's Angels and The Outlaw, constantly clashing with censors over risque content. He was also notorious for his obsessive attention to detail, which stretched film productions and ballooned budgets. Outside of Hollywood, Hughes gained fame for his aviation feats, setting world records for flying around the globe. Yet his personal life was what really made headlines. He dated some of Tinseltown's most famous women, including Ava Gardner and Katharine Hepburn. But beneath the Playboy image, he suffered from severe obsessive-compulsive disorder and debilitating paranoia. As he grew older, Hughes's eccentricities intensified. He isolated himself in darkened rooms for long stretches, fearful of germs and contamination. He communicated with his staff through handwritten memos, insisted on specific ways to open food cans, and sometimes wore tissue boxes as shoes to avoid bacteria. Perhaps the strangest aspect was how he continued to wield power in business. By the 1960s, Hughes's reclusiveness became legendary. He moved around to avoid the press, often renting out entire floors of hotels and customizing his environment to match his obsessive routines. When he died in 1976, he was almost unrecognizable, emaciated, with unkempt hair and nails. The autopsy showed broken needles in his arms from repeated injections, a testament to the poor medical care he received in isolation. Was he a misunderstood genius or a millionaire undone by mental illness? Either way, Howard Hughes's bizarre life and tragic end still fascinate us, revealing a complex man who wielded enormous power yet never found personal peace. Rudolph Valentino and the Cursed Ring. Could a piece of jewelry really bring doom to everyone who wears it? Rudolph Valentino was the first true Latin lover of silent cinema. Films like The Sheik and Blood and Sand drove fans into a frenzy. He was the epitome of romance and exotic allure, capturing hearts across the globe. Then, at the height of his fame, he died unexpectedly in 1926, at just 31 years old, from complications of perforated ulcers. Valentino's death caused mass hysteria. Over 100,000 people flooded the streets of New York for his funeral. Some fans reportedly even taking their own lives out of despair. Mysterious stories soon circulated, including that of a cursed ring. Valentino allegedly purchased a ring despite a store owner's warning that it was filled with bad luck. After he started wearing it, his new films underperformed, and his health began to decline. Following Valentino's death, the ring passed to a close friend, who likewise suffered severe misfortune, and it kept going down the line. Every new owner met tragic endings or career ruin. Whether it's pure coincidence or an actual curse, the ring's eerie reputation remains a part of Valentino's lore. Adding to the mystique was the appearance of the Lady in Black, a mysterious woman who visited Valentino's tomb annually on the anniversary of his death. Her identity changed over time, yet her presence fed the rumors of secret lovers, hauntings, and messages from beyond the grave. Valentino's sudden passing, the massive collective grief, and the tales of a cursed ring all contributed to one of the strangest legacies in early Hollywood. His story highlights how legend and reality can intertwine, making ordinary objects take on a life and death of their own. The Hollywood Blacklist. Imagine losing your job, your reputation, and your friends overnight, just because someone accused you of having the wrong political views. In the late 1940s and 1950s, America was gripped by anti-communist paranoia. The House Un-American Activities Committee turned its sights on Tinseltown, believing communist propaganda could be slipped into movies. In 1947, the committee subpoenaed Hollywood figures to testify about their political beliefs. 10 refused, citing their First Amendment rights. They were found in contempt of Congress and became known as the Hollywood 10. Studios quickly buckled under the pressure and created the Blacklist, a roster of writers, actors, and directors barred from working. Careers evaporated. Many went into exile or wrote under pseudonyms. Dalton Trumbo, a brilliant screenwriter, had to hide his identity to keep making a living. Charlie Chaplin, viewed as too sympathetic to left-wing causes, left the U.S. and lived in Switzerland for years. Elia Kazan, a renowned director, chose to name names, which allowed him to keep working, but stained his reputation. Some believe it was an unforgivable act of betrayal. Others point out the intense fear that led him to cooperate with HUAC. The effects of the blacklist were devastating. Families were torn apart, friendships ended, and the creative community was paralyzed by fear. Hollywood censorship tightened, and film content was carefully vetted to avoid subversive themes. Only in the late 1950s did the tide begin to turn, with figures like Kirk Douglas hiring blacklisted writers openly. By the 1960s, the blacklist lost its grip, but the scars remained. It's a stark reminder of how political hysteria can poison an industry that thrives on creative freedom. Even today, it stands as one of Hollywood's darkest chapters, a time when fear trumped artistry and suspicion drowned out common sense. Trapped by the studio system. Did you know that your favorite star from the Golden Age often had no choice in picking their roles, changing their name, or even dating who they wanted? During Hollywood's Golden Age, the Big Five studios held immense power. Actors signed long-term contracts that gave studios the right to decide what movies they starred in, how they dressed, who they dated, and even what they ate. If they resisted, they could be suspended without pay or blacklisted within the system. The studios crafted elaborate star personas. For instance, Norma Jean Baker was transformed into Marilyn Monroe, and Lucille LeSueur was rechristened as Joan Crawford. Backstories were invented or altered, and relationships were engineered for publicity. Judy Garland was pushed into countless musicals despite her deteriorating health, and Mickey Rooney was forced to maintain a squeaky clean image off-screen. If a star objected to a role or refused a publicity stunt, they risked severe punishment. Bette Davis famously battled Warner Brothers over roles she felt were beneath her talent. Olivia de Havilland took on Warner Brothers as well, resulting in the landmark de Havilland decision, which limited the studio's power to extend contracts indefinitely. This was a crucial step toward reducing studio control. Yet for every actor who challenged the system, many more were trapped, forced to comply with harsh diets, punishing schedules, and heavy moral clauses. From the 1930s to the early 1950s, this system reigned supreme. But by the late 1940s, court rulings forced studios to give up their theater monopolies, weakening their iron grip. An era of independent producers and freer contracts dawned. Though the studio system produced some of the greatest classics in American cinema, its rigid control also created countless personal tragedies. The glitz and glamour often came at an unimaginable cost. The strange case of Elizabeth Short, the Black Dahlia. What if the most notorious unsolved murder in Hollywood history involved a young woman chasing stardom, only to be met with a grisly fate? In January 1947, the body of 22-year-old Elizabeth Short was found in a vacant lot in Los Angeles. Her corpse was severed in two and grotesquely posed. The press quickly dubbed her the Black Dahlia, inspired by a film noir playing at the time, and by Short's preference for dark clothing. The horrific nature of the crime and the victim's connection to Hollywood culture caused a media frenzy. Elizabeth Short moved to California with dreams of becoming an actress. She had small roles or tried modeling gigs, but never reached any real level of success. She was described by acquaintances as a bit of a drifter, pretty, charming, but always short on funds. That made her vulnerable to questionable company. Newspapers published lurid details, some fabricated, turning Short into a kind of dark celebrity. People suspected everyone from local mobsters to corrupt police officials. Even a few Hollywood notables were rumored to be involved. Yet no solid proof tied any one suspect to the crime. The brutality of the murder led to countless theories. Some believe it was a surgeon with a twisted psyche, given the precise dissection of her body. Others say it was a random psychopath. Short's personal life fueled speculation, but the puzzle remained unsolved. Despite extensive investigations and numerous confessions, the murder has never been officially solved. The case remains one of LA's most infamous cold cases, overshadowing any hope that Elizabeth Short had to achieve legitimate fame. The Black Dahlia's story serves as a haunting reminder of how Hollywood dreams can collide with the city's darkest shadows, leaving questions that linger for decades. Errol Flynn, swashbuckler scandals. Have you heard about the dashing movie star whose real life was even more scandalous than his on-screen pirate adventures? Errol Flynn was Tinseltown's ultimate swashbuckler, starring in classics like Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. With his devilish grin, athletic build, and charming Australian accent, Flynn quickly became a box office sensation. But behind his flashing sword and witty lines lay a private life marred by controversy. Flynn was notorious for his partying lifestyle, which included heavy drinking and womanizing. Rumors about underage girls, wild orgies, and even possible espionage ties swirled around him. In 1942, he faced charges of statutory rape involving 2 teenage girls. The trial was a national sensation, with reporters gleefully documenting every sordid detail. Flynn was eventually acquitted, but the scandal permanently stained his reputation. He was married multiple times, each relationship overshadowed by allegations of infidelity and excessive partying. His love of alcohol, in particular, became a public concern. When World War II broke out, some suspected Flynn might be a Nazi spy. Despite the controversies, Flynn's star power didn't fully fade until later, when his health began to decline. Years of alcoholism took a heavy toll on his heart. He died in 1959 at the age of 50, leaving behind a legacy of swashbuckling heroes and tabloid-ready scandals. Whether you see him as a charming rogue or an irresponsible hedonist, Errol Flynn's story exemplifies the chaotic off-screen lives many Golden Age stars lived. It's a reminder that the carefree persona on film can hide real personal demons. The Troubled Life of Frances Farmer. Have you ever heard of the star whose rebellious streak allegedly landed her in a mental institution where horrors awaited? Frances Farmer was a rising star in the 1930s, known for her striking beauty and talent. With roles in films like Come and Get It, she seemed poised for major stardom. But Farmer had a rebellious nature and openly criticized Hollywood's superficial culture. She clashed with studio executives who found her nonconformity hard to control. Her personal problems grew more severe when she was arrested for disorderly conduct and drunk driving. Headlines branded her a wild, ungrateful actress. Eventually, Farmer was diagnosed with a mental illness. The exact nature of her condition remains a matter of debate. She was confined to various mental institutions. Disturbing rumors surfaced, claiming she was subjected to electroconvulsive therapy, ice baths, and even a lobotomy. While the lobotomy story remains unconfirmed, her treatment certainly seemed brutal. Her family had limited power against the system at the time, leaving Farmer trapped in a world of medical horror. By the 1950s, Farmer was released and attempted a modest comeback. She appeared on television and in local theater, but the spark of her old screen persona had faded. She died in 1970, largely forgotten by the industry that once praised her potential. Frances Farmer's tragic descent illustrates how Hollywood could discard its own, especially those who spoke out against it. The system was designed to mold stars, not accommodate free spirits. Though the details of her institutionalization remain tangled in rumor and sensational reporting, the reality remains grim. A once promising actress lost her career, her freedom, and perhaps her sanity within a merciless industry. The mysterious death of Natalie Wood. Could a late-night boating trip turn deadly for one of Hollywood's most famous actresses under suspicious circumstances? Natalie Wood was a child star who gracefully transitioned into adult roles, achieving acclaim in Rebel Without a Cause and West Side Story. She married actor Robert Wagner not once, but twice, reflecting a romance that seemed meant to be. But on a fateful night in November 1981, Wood drowned near Santa Catalina Island during a weekend boat trip with Wagner and co-star Christopher Walken. The official story said she went missing from the yacht, Splendor, after a night of drinking. Her body was discovered hours later. At the time, investigators ruled it an accident, suggesting that Wood may have tried to secure a dinghy and slipped into the water. However, rumors persisted. Witnesses claimed to have heard arguments from the yacht that night. Some said Wood feared dark water and wouldn't have left the yacht alone. Years later, the case was reopened. The coroner changed Wood's cause of death from accidental drowning to drowning and other undetermined factors. Wagner was named a person of interest, but no charges were filed. The exact sequence of events is still heavily debated, with accounts differing on how and why Wood ended up in the water. The public remains fascinated by the mystery, partly because of Wood's star power, and partly because the puzzle never fully resolved. Did an argument turn physical? Was it an accident fueled by alcohol, or something more sinister? Natalie Wood's tragic death at 43 left behind a swirl of unanswered questions. Even decades later, the story continues to capture headlines whenever new evidence or testimony emerges. It's a chilling reminder that even the brightest stars can leave behind some of the darkest mysteries. Lionel Atwill's scandalous party. Would one party's alleged indecency be enough to nearly destroy a prominent horror actor's entire career? Lionel Atwill was a respected character actor in the 1930s and 1940s, particularly known for his performances in horror films like Son of Frankenstein and The Vampire Bat. He often played mad scientists or authority figures with a sinister edge. Off-screen, Atwill's private life was rather scandalous. In 1940, police investigated a wild Hollywood party held at Atwill's home. Rumors suggested it was an orgy involving minors, and that the behavior was beyond the boundaries of even Hollywood's loose moral standards. Atwill was charged with perjury after he reportedly lied about details under oath. The case became a tabloid sensation, tarnishing his reputation. Though he wasn't convicted of any direct crimes from the party itself, the perjury charge was enough to cast a dark shadow over his career. Studios grew wary of employing him, fearing public backlash. While Atwill managed to keep working, it was mostly in lower-budget films and smaller roles, a steep fall from his earlier prominence. He died in 1946 from lung cancer, with many believing that the scandal had effectively blacklisted him from major Hollywood projects. Unlike some other stars who bounced back from sensational rumors, Atwill never fully recovered. The lurid details have never been entirely confirmed, making the scandal part rumor, part reality. But the lesson is clear. In an era of moral crusades and censorship, a single scandal could ruin even the most established careers. Lionel Atwill's life offers a cautionary tale about how quickly Hollywood could turn on its own, especially when faced with allegations that threaten the industry's already fragile image. The Debbie Reynolds, Eddie Fisher, Elizabeth Taylor love triangle. What happens when America's sweetheart loses her husband to the most glamorous movie star in the world and remains stoic through it all? Debbie Reynolds was the wholesome girl next door, adored for roles in Singin' in the Rain and other musicals. Eddie Fisher was a popular crooner with a baby-faced charm that made teen girls swoon. Elizabeth Taylor was the ultimate Hollywood beauty, known for her violet eyes and stunning screen presence. Their lives collided in a scandal that dominated headlines in 1958. Reynolds and Fisher were married with 2 children, including future Star Wars icon Carrie Fisher. Taylor was married to film producer Mike Todd, who tragically died in a plane crash. Seeking to comfort her grieving friend, Fisher grew close to Taylor, and soon, tabloids revealed a full-blown affair. America was shocked. Debbie Reynolds, the nation's sweetheart, had been blindsided by her husband and her close friend. The public skewered Fisher, calling him a traitor. Taylor, already famous for her beauty and talent, was labeled a homewrecker. They married, But their union didn't last. Soon, Taylor left Fisher for Richard Burton, her co-star in Cleopatra, sparking yet another notorious affair. Despite the heartbreak, Debbie Reynolds kept a dignified public face. Over time, the public forgave and even admired the resilience she displayed. She and Taylor eventually reconciled their friendship years later. This highly publicized love triangle shone a spotlight on the personal dramas that lurked behind Hollywood's shiny exterior. It also demonstrated how quickly fans can turn on their idols when morals are called into question. In the end, the Reynolds-Fisher-Taylor affair became one of the most memorable and bizarre romantic scandals of the Golden Age, reminding everyone that Tinseltown's real-life stories can be as dramatic as anything on the silver screen. Conclusion. We've explored 20 bizarre tales that reveal the underbelly of old Hollywood. Shocking scandals, strange curses, mysterious deaths, and fierce rivalries. Although we often view the golden age of Hollywood through a nostalgic lens, beneath that polished surface lay personal battles, moral compromises, and heartbreaking ends. From Peg Entwistle's leap off the iconic sign to the complicated love lives of screen legends like Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, and Debbie Reynolds, these stories show us that the path to stardom was often paved with sorrow and sacrifice. The casting couch proved how power could be twisted behind locked doors. The studio system's iron grip forced talented actors into rigid molds, sometimes driving them to the brink. And the tabloids amplified every whispered rumor, sometimes crushing reputations before the truth could emerge. Yet, these stories also carry lessons and serve as cautionary tales. They remind us that fame is fleeting, that the demands of the public can push stars to extremes, and that real people with real vulnerabilities stand behind the glossy photos. They remind us, too, that even in a place as bright as Tinseltown, shadows can lurk behind every spotlight. If you found these stories captivating, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Which one shocked you the most? Have you heard other bizarre Hollywood tales that deserve a spot in history? Let us know, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more deep dives into the world of classic cinema. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Hollywood's darker corners. Until next time, keep the magic of classic film alive. But remember, the brightest lights often cast the darkest shadows.